Kenny Jackett died, and I remember Kenny Jackett, Watford manager, Millwall manager, Wolves manager, a lovely fella. God, who am I kidding? I remember him playing. For me, I'm 57 years old. Kenny Jackett has died far too young, but if I'm realistic, my paternal grandfather, he died 36 years old. Was he 36, 34 years old when he died of the cancer back in the day, and he was 20 years old when he had my dad. So my dad lost his dad when he was 14. Then my dad had me when my dad was 20 years old. So for the 14 years that I was like, he was pretty much convinced he was going to die at 34 years old. He was anticipating my 14th birthday, thinking this is it, and he lived life like that. He drank, that way, total function, high function stuff on a job the whole time. Always looked after the family. Always there for holidays and stuff like that. But it's the drinking at this country. It's the drink. It's the alcohol. It's the short life expectancy. I'm into borrowed time already. The absolute size of me, the state of me, and then Hockney, he dies. David Hockney, English artist, and I thought they were watercolours at first. He went through a phase of doing watercolours, but it's the paints, because the documentary was on last night. I couldn't get to sleep into the early hours of Friday morning, and Thursday night I'd watched South Africa at the Azteca in the opening game, and it was so boring, and I thought, God, another 103 games like this, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with this. I'm past this thing now. I'm past this of just getting sucked in by football tournaments. Life's too short for me, and yet when I went to my bed, despite having been bored with that game, 2 o'clock in the morning, I was wide awake. 2:30 in the morning, I'm wide awake, but you don't want to move, particularly me. You want to fall asleep, you need your sleep when you're trying to lose weight because you're morbidly obese. A big thing in this country. That's where we live. Everybody's overweight, terrible health problems. This country, I just need to go out for a walk every day, and you're supposed to get your sleep as well, because I'm just 2 biscuits away from being in a rascal scooter for the heart attack, for the stroke that more folk have per capita in this country than anywhere else in Western Europe. So I couldn't get to sleep, so I'm knackered. I actually was awake. I was lying in bed for 3 o'clock in the morning to the back of 5 before I got to sleep again, and I could have been up. I could have been up and watched South Korea against Czechia, but I was like, I need to try and sleep. It didn't work, and I'm thinking, is it just knowing that there's a FIFA tournament on? Is it working in a subliminal level for me? Even though at the front of my brain I'm not actually excited by other nations. I'm trying to be not excited by other nations in a football tournament. I'm just all about... And no, it wasn't working. I couldn't get to sleep. I don't know what the reason was. I didn't watch the game. I'd recorded it on it, so I fast forwarded to the times of the goals. You would see the times of the goals on your phone, on the BBC website, so you just fast forward through it, see times of goals. But I was absolutely exhausted all day yesterday, and I watched the Bosnia game in Toronto against Canada, and it was good as a good game, but I thought I wasn't that excited, but I was finding it, I still felt a bit buzzing, so I hung on, I flicked the channels, and it was a documentary about David Hockney, because Hockney died, the artist David Hockney. He died, and I'd been down years ago down in Saltaire. That's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the converted old mill, and there was Hockney paintings in there on exhibition. And one point, in one of the many holidays I've been lucky to have all over the world, I can't remember if it was Vienna, if it was Munich, if it was Berlin, it might even have been New York. There's somewhere I'm late at night, it's late at night, and I'm pissed, half pissed, staggering about streets late at night, and we passed a studio, and it was lit up at night time, and there was a Hockney in the window, and I was like, amazing. But we saw the Hockneys in Bradford, just outside Bradford, and I thought, it's such a snob. We're so snobby about ourselves in this country. If I was in that country, the country that we stay in, Hockney's English, but not much different because it's up the north of England. And as Hockney's cut, the oil paintings that he did in this documentary was about the oil paintings, because it was like the Impressionists. He was starting to go through this phase of doing oil paintings. He did do watercolours, but it was people who was doing the watercolours. This was the countryside, the Yorkshire countryside, and went through like a 3-year phase of doing this, and this guy was following. I'd seen it, I saw it at the time in the documentary, and these paintings of the North Yorkshire or the Yorkshire countryside are on the covers. Some of them are used for the covers of the Ali Smith series of books. It's one for each season of the year, and there's a 5th one called Companion Piece, Spring, autumn. So I've read 2.5 of those 5 books because they're brilliant, because they're absolutely brilliant, they're magical. And why would I want to enjoy myself? Why would I want to get ahead of myself? Why would I want to invest in anything that's going to totally enrich my life when my life is probably going to end really quickly, like my dad always thinks his is, like his fathers did? I don't know, what is this kind of attitude we have in this country? This country, and the Hockneys are absolutely fantastic. And there's a bit with David Hockney. He went to the same farm track 7 times in the space of 1 year, and he called it the tunnel, and he painted it. You'll have seen it without even realising you've seen it, or one of the 7 paintings he did of this thing called the tunnel. It's just the 2 tracks pitted into the ground by the tractor or the Range Rover that's gone up it on a daily basis, and 7 times he painted this throughout the course of 1 year so he could get in all the different colours and all the different varieties of lights and foliage. This tree-lined track called the tunnel, and I put the curtains over. It was 11 o'clock at night when I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, this the passage of time, how it colours things, because we're in the north. We really appreciate it. Like David Hockney moved to California, not just because he was gay and he wanted to go somewhere a bit more liberal, because you've got San Francisco close by, a real centre of gay liberation, but also the colour. He came from North Yorkshire, he came from Bradford, he came from West Yorkshire. He wanted the colour, the light. He's a painter. He wanted people to see things as being colourful, as being bright. And I'm thinking how rare that is. We're all beer drinkers in Northern Europe because famously it's wine in the southern sunny places, and I'm closing the curtains thinking we're getting there. We're getting to that point that you always know as a Northern European, right in the middle of these 3 games. It's going to be the longest, lightest night of the year. Is around about the 22nd, the 23rd. Scotland's last group game is the 24th. Our last group game is the 24th. Are we going to come out into a new light? Is it going to be a winter of discontent once again, or will we take some extra light from that can just help us through the dark months and make us realise that for once this country... I couldn't get to sleep again last night, so I ended up lying in bed and I'm thinking it's USA are at home to Paraguay, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I still can't get to sleep. I'm thinking about Hockney and I still can't get to sleep, so I pick up my phone, I put the headphones on. I'd thought it out without realising I'd thought it out, and I can lie there in bed watching it on my phone via the BBC Sports website. And the USA are absolutely mesmeric, and it's a brilliant game, a brilliant performance, and that means that I've only got like 5 hours sleep again when I get up. Get back at 10 a day, need a long lie, but again it's the weight. I'm worried about the weight, and I go to Morrison's. I always go to Morrison's on a Saturday. If Rangers only playing, it'll be the Sunday. If Rangers are playing on the Saturday, and vice versa, but there's not. I'll go into Morrison's. I walk to Morrison's, I don't know, it's a mile and a half or something from my house. I walk there and back, it's a mile from my house. It's the exercise, but I'm struggling because I'm so morbidly obese, despite a couple of weeks of a good exercise. And I'm not going for drink, I'm not going for alcohol, but it feels wrong. It still instinctively feels wrong. It's a weekend because of the country, because of where I'm from, because of this environment that we live in, because of the high alcoholism rates, the highest in Western Europe at times. It's in me, and this thing. I don't want to go for the booze, but I need to get stuff. I'm needing to get like soda water and lime. That's how pathetic it is. I'm too old now to drink Coca-Cola or flipping Red Bull. Who drinks Red Bull? I'm spotty and fatty enough as it is, but the buzz is actually too much. But even soda water and lime, I'm just getting to that stage. I need to be an early bird special with my dinner and no have a cup of caffeinated tea past 6 o'clock at night. But and yet this time I've got to stay up late. It's like Hogmanay for somebody who's too old to tolerate hanging about after the bells who can handle it. But I've got to get stuff, and I'm going up the aisle that's getting the milk and the cheese and Morrison's, and I'm feeling exhausted. I'm feeling hungover, but I've done nothing except sit and watch a football match on my phone. I'm feeling exhausted, and there's a long night ahead as well. And I go up the milk aisle, and I've got the basket in my hands. And because I'm like 23 stone, I've got to be careful. I'm really conscious I don't bump into a woman, basically. I don't bump into any women, or knock an old person, somebody who's even older than me, out the way. It'll look like some sort of assault or something like that, and I'm just a big tub of lard. So I'm careful. So I notice there's a guy who's around about the same age as me, but slimmer than me, and he's buzzing in front of me. He just kind of jukes past me, and he stops. There's a boy in the middle of the aisle, works for Morrison's, and he's unloading stuff. He's putting stuff into it, and that makes it even tighter. It's mobbed. This is the right time to be here. It's just before noon. It's kind of 11:30. It's before, and it's absolutely jam-packed, mostly with women, middle-aged or older, up and down a bit. A lot of guys there as well. And this guy, he's kind of mid-20s, he's unpacking. The fella says to him, "Where's the cheese, mate? Where's the cheese?" And the guy goes up there, "The whole aisle's cheese, mate. Half this aisle's cheese. But they've got any cabinets now at Morrison's and Annie's Land where you got to open the door, so they pull out into the space that's already rammed. So folk have got to, and I'm worried. I'm so worried. There's folk I'm having to duke in. He's forming lots of bottlenecks. The fellow who's unpacking his big kind of trolley full of supplies into the various shelves, the Morrison's workers. So people are going everywhere. I just want to get milk. Oh, I want the milk because I need to be able to have cereal. If I don't have cereal, I'll end up having a can of lager instead. So I have to make sure I've got milk all the time, or else I'm going to die before I get to 60s. I'm going for the milk. I'm just concentrating, but I'm thinking, well, and at first, because I'm so paranoid about bumping into somebody, I thought it was me. I could hear the voice say, I need to watch where you're going. You can't just jump in like that. You just can't. And I'm kind of turning around going, no, I'm not actually near anybody. I'm okay. I've managed this. I'd stop to let folk pass me so I could get in without causing any problems. And I turned, and it's just because I was so knackered and so, I was so slow before I realised what had actually happened. It was a woman. It was the guy with the baseball cap and the guy with the basket, the trolley that was going a bit too fast on the wheels. She's like, "You've hit me in the face, you bumped it, you just say excuse me." I said, "All right, don't make a big deal about it, don't make it." This guy's about the same age as me. He's not a young guy, and it's so bad in this country, it's so bad here, it's so bad in this city, so bad in this area. Record levels of heroin abuse for this tiny wee country, and we're at the stage where we're all educated, we cannot tell when it's a heroin addict, when it's somebody who's on the... And he wasn't. He's no... You can tell he isn't. But she's saying, he's like, "Fucking stop getting on to me now." I'm thinking, he's too old to be overreacting like that. And he's like, shut up about it. I'm sure he called her a hun bitch as well. Is that just me? Because I'm so involved in the other cancer of sectarianism in this country, in this part of the country. Am I just imagining it now that anybody who's bad has to be for the other side and being sectarian? I don't get me. I've seen plenty of stuff that embarrassed me, made me cringe. Rangers supporters with anti-Catholic sectarianism towards women. Well, I've seen a couple of incidents anyway in my 50 years in this. And I said, "I don't know what's happening here." And the guy starts walking away with the truck, and the woman's like, "You arsehole. You've hit me in the face. Just say sorry, just say excuse me." "All right, stop." And he's shouting back, "Shut up, you boot, shut up, you cow." And he gets to the bottom of the aisle, and he says, I'll fucking smack you in the fucking face. I'll boot you one in the face, you pun boot." And I'm like, what the fuck? And it all happened. So he was at the bottom of the aisle before I even realised the woman wasn't talking to me. It all happened so quickly, but at the same time, nobody else. You couldn't move in this aisle for adults. There was blokes there. There was, slim middle-aged women in that as well. There was folk who were active. There was folk who could, but they just as if they didn't want anything, but nothing had happened. And I'm standing going, is that guy just? Have I just seen some domestic abuse in this country? Men hitting women, men being evil. And I've let it happen. I always try to be politically involved in these things. I'm trying to be politically aware, and I was thinking, you never let that happen. You never let a guy hit a woman. But it was all away. It was done before I'd even really been able to take on. I was so slow. I was so tired and so fat and so useless. And eventually, I just went down and I said to them, because nobody else was talking to her. Nobody else was. She's maybe in her 40s. Kind of denim jake and that one, but there was no outward signs of. There's no Rangers top. People don't even think he was even wearing blue or anything. I don't know why. This is just the first insult the guy's got to hand, because he lives in this hate of this cancer. And I said, "Are you all right?" And I don't think she was crying, but she was getting there, But she's harder than me, obviously. And she's like, "No, he's just called. He hit me in the face there, jumping in front of me. And I knew the guy was too. I knew he was too jumpy. I knew he was too." But just so many fucking folk are mental health problems in this country through the roof, unattended to. And he's called me a cow and he's called me a boot as well after he's bumped into me, And I'm so, oh fuck. And I saw the security. I said, "You should report him to the fucking report him to." And I'm like, "You're swearing at the woman now." I'm like, "Would you do something about it or fucking?" Like, I don't know. I just felt responsible, but at the same time, I'm thinking, I've got to keep my get out of jail free cards. For me, in case I've got to do something to protect my family, in case I've got to get involved in something like that, but I couldn't let it go either. And I'm thinking, and I go into the aisle that he disappeared up, and I'm thinking, the guy's leaving, he's away, he's run away. I never actually saw what happened, but the woman seemed instinctively, I believed her. I don't think she was making a big deal of the thing, but she'd summoned up the energy to call the guy an arsehole anyway. That was good, but the response was totally out. And I stood and he's coming. Somebody's coming back along with a trolley. I'm thinking, is that him? And it was green trainers and a green baseball cap. And I'm thinking, Alec, are you just wanting to think bad of people? But half my family's Catholic. The whole nonsense about sectarianism. When this part of this country as a whole, there's so many folk of different religions. And he was coming towards me, and I'm thinking, did I just deck this guy? Or do I have a word with him and then exacerbate the situation? And he just zooms past me, jukes away, and he's obviously trying to get out as quickly as possible because he knows he's done it. And I'm seeing the security guy, and he's talking to a pal, and I'm thinking, you'd feel like a grass because this stupid machismo we've got in this country, oh, man's man, pissing on that while women are getting fucking threatened in the street. Very good, men, very good. But you can't be a grass, that'd be absolutely terrible. And I just get your stuff all out and go. You're just going to make things worse. I was too confused. I was too tired. I felt ashamed of myself. And I'm walking back round, and I've got the 2 bottles of... I've got the 4 pint of milk, and I've got the 2 bottles of soda water. And I'm weighed down, and the sun comes out. It'd been pissing down in the way too, Morrison's, and it's fucking sunny in the way out, and the fucking sun's built. I'm struggling, but next thing there's this park that I walk up to. There's this wee park. It's a park on a hill. A kids' park as well, and there's lots of kids kind of stuff like seesaws and all that, and swings in it. And I'll cut up through there sometimes to get back home, and it's a bit of a struggle. And the past few weeks just being this way, I'll go through a sort of I'm either far too fat, or I'm either totally on trying to lose the fat, and I'm going through an on it phase. I'm in the early stages, so the walking's a real struggle. Then walking with actual messages is even hard. But I was at the bottom of the park. I was at the bottom of the stairs before I realised it's because I was running away from my shame. I was running away from the fact that I hadn't really helped that woman. I saw her again later on. I mean, she seemed okay and that, but and I'm sitting there and I'm looking, I can see the high flats, the listed building folk up in the sky, as opposed to having a house in the street, not in the street level where they can form a community, but they're stuck up in the high rises that killed Glasgow. And I'm thinking Morrison's at the bottom of that, and it suddenly struck me. I suddenly thought, what if the reason he wasn't getting involved is he looked stabby. He looked stabby. He looked like he'd have a knife on him. And we know that. I've had knives pulled on me. I've had all sorts pulled on me in my life. You get in this part of the world, this country of ours, knife crime through the roof and that. And you know if somebody's on heroin, you know if somebody's carrying a knife, you get that look, and it makes you think twice about stuff. I think, but what if he's went for the woman? What if he went outside to wait for that woman? It didn't look like he was kind of shitting himself, and it was his idea of bravado, and he was trying to get out of the shop. But you don't know that, Alec, and you've just let that. You're going to read about it in Daily Record or something like that the next day, the tabloids, they'll go for you because it's supposed to be a country, but it's basically a region, such a tiny country, and it's that way. The feral kind of tabloid stuff will get in there and totally exploit you, and you'll end up having to kill yourself or something like that because of the shame. You should have stood outside and at least waited until the woman got in her car or whatever it is, make sure she was safe getting home. You've totally... And I just thought to myself, no Scotland, no party. No Scotland, no party. We'll be coming round the road. When you hear that noise of the door, a dear, a female. We've got Super John McGinn with respects now. Can't wait. I'm so proud. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Egg. DR to RB, and Stevie G comes to the RFC ASAP, or Deeks MC Innes fulfilling his destiny finally. But you and me glued to our TV and thinking of the decades, nearly 3, since Scotland's involvement was participatory at Infantino's big sleazy golden WC, when voiced by Luciano Pavarotti, Stadio Luigi Ferrari, 36 years ago, Italia 90. The last time Scotland achieved World Cup finals victory. Scotland v Haiti in the 2026 FIFA World Cup Group C preview pod, sponsored by Gersnet, the best Rangers pod on Poddington Street. And I'm also sponsored by Degree, or is it Rexona? I'm not sure. Degree or Rexona. It's just, you see it, the guy, the fourth official lifting the board, it's got the tick on it, it's got the sure tick for the deodorant, that sure for men, the tick thing, that's in the tap at the time you put the fourth official puts up the number for the subs that are changing, or for the amount of time left at the end of the half, the amount of injury time that's been added on. I don't know if you're in North America, we get lots of Bears and Arsa Bears watching this stuff, no doubt. Is there an advert campaign over there? It's ideal, for having the Oaksters get exposed, don't they? Because the fourth official's lifting the board up all the time. So you could do a wee advert, a wee TV commercial where the substitutes wand them. They're like, right, you come on number 35 for number, and the substitutes are passing out because they're getting a whiff of the minging pits. But the next time they go, the fourth official's back home and spraying with the Rexona or the Degree or the Sure, and the next time the substitutes get done for time wasting because they're hanging about under the fourth official's pit because it smells so lovely. They're hanging about there for too long. It was in the game at Toronto on the Friday night. I just noticed the fourth official picking the thing up. Everything's commercial in the World Cup, and then it said Rexona, and I thought that's the Sure sign. That's not the Nike swoosh thing. That's the tick, the Sure for men, deodorant tick. Looked it up on the internet. In Canada, it's Sure is called Rexona, and then I'm sitting there at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning watching the USA game. Fourth official, up it goes, the same tick on the top of the board. At the bottom of the board, it says Degree. That's what they call it. And it's just like Lay's, Crisps, Walkers over here, and that whole thing with Snickers and marathons, or was that the state? I don't know if it was the States or whatever they called it, but I thought it was really interesting. Maple Leaf Clackers is Canadian for Vuvuzelas, but Rexona is Canadian for Degree, which is American for Sure. Sure for men, deodorant. How you doing? My name's Alec Anderson. Nessun dorma, tu pure, o principessa, nella tua fredda stanza, guardi le stelle che tremano d'amore e di speranza. Ma un mistero è chiuso in me, il nome mio nessun saprà, no, sulla tua bocca lo dirò, quando la luce splenderà. No, is that the wrong bit? No. This unnaturally high big C. It's no time for me to do the high C naturals just yet, but it is 36 years since Scotland had a any kind of venture at all at the World Cup finals. Sweden, the Luigi Ferrari Stadium in Genoa. Genoa, the city that the locals call La Superba, but we'd lost there, hadn't we? That's what we say, superb by the way. Superb by the way, in my part of this country, you say it's superb by the way, we say in this country, and the by the way was losing to Costa Rica in the first game, because if we get anything good, anything superb happens to us, it's got to be paid for twice, 3 times for the badness, with setbacks, with horrible stuff. And I mean, you get the Darien thing where we go and we try and buy Panama. We try to have our own overseas thing. We try to have our own kind of empire in that, and it just turns into an absolute nightmare. And you get, I mean, Bannockburn was good, but you get Culloden, Flodden, all the Oddens, and the Solway Firth. The Solway Firth. The thing, the Solway Moss. What was it? The Solway Firth at the Caravan, and that could have been a bad result as well. But it was Celtic won the Scottish Cup when I was doing that was a bad result. But you get Solway Moss, but it's like one of the battles where we actually kill ourselves, and it does affect the psyche. National stuff does affect. Even folk just telling you you're Scottish, you're in that part, in that country, that those lines there, that means you're this nationality. It does affect your psyche, how you think about yourself, how you. In Florida, I think there was about 25 English folk on one side of the burn, the Solway Moss, and there was about 20,000 of us fully armoured on the horses, knights and everything, with the big spears and the armour on the other side, and we charged and just started. The English didn't even have to throw any arrows or anything at us. They're just on the other side going, should we get? They seem to be drowning in that burn. They can't even get out this side. I feel kind of embarrassed for them. Should we maybe? I chuck a few spears or something, or you get a lance or something, just so they'll think we get. It's except in English accents, like the Northern English accents. I know there's a whole kind of Henry VIII and Catholicism thinking on there if you like, but we're doing the Scotland thing here. It's nationalism. What harm has that ever done anybody? How you doing, folks? I couldn't get sleep I started on Thursday night. I'm watching the Brooklyn Bridge. Big Canadian guy, Adam, nearly as fat as me, and eats as much as me, and he's talking about, oh, we've got team, we've got the old firm, we've got both sides of the old firm. We got Adam Johnson, we got Derek Cornelius, Alistair Johnson even. So we get both sides of the old firm. I'm like, can't I get away from this? Thursday night, it's if the World Cup's just started. I'm trying to get in a exotic vibe and all that, but no, it's still getting the old firm thrown down my throat straight away. The opening ceremony was really boring. Beautiful, and the Brooklyn, the Manhattan skyline, they're over there in Brooklyn, they're on ITV. You got Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Ian Wright, and all that. It's Mark Pugac. Why is he all shouting? Why are they all I'm in the kitchen and they're shouting at each other. I can hear them loving them through there. Mark, what do you think, Ian? What do you think about that? Is Ian Wright deaf or something? Why is it? But it was the World Cup was up and going. Wasn't much of a game at all. I felt as if there was a kind of hum, and they're expecting a magical atmosphere from the Azteca, a famous stadium, massive crowds, and all that 80-odd thousand there. But it was more of a kind of hum, like everybody just sitting talking. I know it's. The heat, the humidity over there, and the altitude as well was kind of stifling. But it's a beautiful stadium. Ali was doing his paid to gush. Is an affable Scotsman type thing on. I love Ali, saved Rangers, but he's doing that on ITV. That's how he earns his money. Fair enough. And he's talking about how it is an iconic stadium, and it is an iconic stadium. And the thing I notice about it is I think it's common to a lot of Latin type stadiums. Obviously, a kind of hot thing where the posh folk, the main thing is they get shade. The scum like you and me in these countries would be out in the sunny part of the parts of the stadium that aren't shaded. Most of it is shaded now because of the roof right the way around it. Impressive that Mexico have only lost there twice since it was built in the 60s in competitive football. That's great. They kept going on about that. The only stadium to host the opening ceremony, the opening game. I know there's the wee technicality with the San Siro in 1934, 1990, but really it was 1934. It was Rome that was having the proper opening game. Just they all kicked off at the same time, all different games. That's fine. We covered that in the last podcast, but it's the only place they've hosted it twice. The opening game, now it's the only place they've hosted it 3 times. Azteca, iconic, absolutely iconic. No getting away from that. But I noticed that they used to have the one. They've still got it at Ipswich at Portman Road. I think they've still got it at the Hawthorns as well, West Bromwich Albion, where they've got the wee kind of felt roof. 2 or 3 rows for the front of the stand, and it's like we felt roof kind of on the wee, what would you call it, hospitality bit, we kind of glazed bit. And then behind that, you got the rest of the stand. And as a kid, just seeing Pele in 1970 winning the World Cup, seeing Maradona in 1986 winning the World Cup, though I was like 16, 17 by the time he'd done that. Seeing these pictures again and again for years afterwards, I always noticed that wee bit. At the front of the Aztecas, a bit as the cameras would pan back with the bedlam of, especially that 1970 final. Folk invading the pitch once Pele's getting lifted shoulder high and all that, and they're getting the Jules Rimet trophy. You can see it's this thing that having all these stadiums, as I say, it's like two or three. You couldn't call them tiers, but they must be in terms of construction, which are so thin, but they haven't glazed them. They're only about 20 foot high. They kind of aperture at the front, but it's obviously just posh folk have got they're in the shade. They're completely in the shade, so they're quite thin, and you see this a lot. It's in the middle between the top tier and the bottom tier at the Estadio Deluge, Lisbon, Benfica's new version of their old ground, which is almost a replica of what they got at the Emirates, and Spurs have got a lot of it now as well. So it's coming into the to the kind of northern European stadiums and that. But I think it's just, but they're fully glazed, and it's proper hospitality boxes. These stadiums are getting built to make major money from major sporting events through hospitality. But I saw it first in the Azteca when I was a kid, and I was so glad that it's all still there. It's so recognisable, even though I've never been there. The two teams, it was a boring game. First, second and third red card of the tournament, that was fine, but it was just the crowd was at a kind of low hum, and the game was at a low hum, and Mexico were never in danger. They just kind of worked them into the ground there. South Africa, the guy Sitoli, I think that's how you actually pronounce it, but it looks like shithole. We all know it looks like shithole, and he has a shithole of a game, giving away the first goal, then getting sent off in the second half and really ending the game as a contest. But you got Raul Jimenez, a lovely moment where he scores his goal after everything he's been through with that injury. His first goal in a major final in the World Cup finals for Mexico, and as he's crying, the first bit of rain hits the camera that's showing it, so it's like his tears are coming onto the camera. That was nice, but the game was boring. Really boring. I'm looking at the kits. The exciting stuff was the ref cam. You see the new stuff that's happening at World Cups. Every World Cup, every major tournament's got a development, and the referees come up at the tunnel there wearing Adidas. The referees are all in Adidas. I like it when they go to the VAR officials. They're turning to face the camera. It's all very regimented. very choreographed, and the referees that are all wearing, all the officials are wearing Adidas at this World Cup, maintaining that heavy-duty sponsorship link between FIFA and Adidas cartel. The referees come up onto the pitch with this thing at the side of his head, and I thought at first it's like either a laser gun, so anybody gives them too much hassle, zap, you're away. Red cards, guys tries to have a go, zap, you're dead. Or it was going to come round, like kind of Robocop stuff, where it comes round, and he was going to be able to look at it, it was like a wee screen, and he's going to be able to do the VAR decisions. You're getting called to the monitor, I've got it here at the side of my head, you come round and you look at it on the wee screen. No, what it is the ref cam, so we can see it from his point of view. Football, and it's goals, the referee's running, he's got to keep up with the action, of course, but it turned into the most immersive experience I've ever had so far via television, watching a game when he's right behind the guy, the referees, or her, is right behind whoever's scoring the goal or stuff like that, and the crowd's all up in the background, it's at pitch level, it's ultra real, it's really good. I'm enjoying that in the ref mic as well. I know they've got that in the NFL, and they've brought it into the English Premier League as well, where they've got to make their explanations. It immediately links up with the speakers in the stadium, so the crowd can hear it, and the folks back home can hear it. A bit of struggle for that referee, was struggling with the English for, no way, mate, you're a dive and get it. But it's definitely a red card. But that was quite interesting watching that wee development, seeing everybody in the stands, of course, at the Azteca. The cameras kept, and it was good because it was a boring game, so they're going to the stands, and it's Roberto Baggio, and it's who was up at Carlos Puyol, and then they've got Rudy Voller, who scored in the 1986 final against Argentina in the Azteca, so that's appropriate. Not like the game I was watching at 2 to 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock this morning, the USA playing the most exciting football I've seen for years. I think actually, but certainly at this tournament, most exciting football we've seen so far at this tournament was the USA's opening game against Paraguay. But in the middle of moves, in the middle of on-field dramas and stuff like that, the camera's cutting away to the there's Tom Cruise with his latest hair. You know, there's David Beckham, right? He's played fit, but he's played at the World Cup, knowing how pleased was Victoria that the camera just moved a wee inch, you know, to let her twig-like figure come in. She's looking at herself on the big screen. She can see it in there. But there's, you know, the Microsoft guy, Bill Gates, and the George Lucas, the Star Wars guy. No, I don't care. I'm not interested in this football. Why do you keep showing us the Fitba? Stupid personality-obsessed stuff. That's no relevant. These guys on the World Cup players, whatever. That was quite distracting. But the Mexico, there was dull weather. The crowd noise was just I'm expecting the total cacophonous crackling stuff that we got at the 86 World Cup whenever Mexico would score a goal, but it didn't seem to be coming across like that at all. The sun came out at the end of that game. The final whistle went at the Azteca in the first game of this World Cup. Sun comes out. 103 more games. I know you can't watch them all at the same time. I know you can't watch. You can't watch the games that are played at the same. You can't watch every game in a major finals because the final group games are all played at the same time, apart from anything else. And that came about after 1978 Peru. They're getting bribed by Argentina, so Argentina could get a better goal difference than Brazil to get into the final in that second round group stage at Argentina 78. That didn't help, but then 4 years later, the shame of Hee-Haw, the disgrace of Hee-Haw, whatever it's called, Hee-Haw, he's always called me a donkey. When West Germany and Austria played out the Anschluss, the 1-0 that got both teams through into the second round at the expense of Algeria. The referee was Bob Valentine. Bob Valentine for Dundee. Scottish involvement, history making in the World Cup as always. I didn't stay up for South Korea against Czechia, but I watched the highlights the next day, and there's scoring the winner and a single goal win for his team, and we've seen that as Rangers fans this season. The season just ended. We saw scoring a winner in front of a kind of a crowd that wasn't as big as it should be in a major kind of international type competition. I'm really stretching that one, but that was something to see there. And in Guadalajara, it's like Scarabray, a beautiful stadium. The way it's kind of sunk into the ground, but they've covered it in grass outside as well, patted it all up like they're trying to insulate it against the winter, which I don't think they get in Guadalajara. Absolutely beautiful stadium. But the thing I also noticed, it must be the worst thing, a kind of double-edged sword, poison challenge, if you like, for a fashion company to get a football strip contract, because it's a hell of a lot of money. But you can't really do a lot because the colours can't change. You get every 2 years you get to change the outfit, dear. But you can't because fashion designers are kind of gay. So, darling, you know, that's what gay folks say. That's what people in the fashion industry say. Oh, sweetheart, I'm bad at this. But you get it's great. The money's guaranteed, fantastic. But if you're doing the Mexico strip, it's got to be a green top, white shorts, and red socks with a white fold And that's all you can. I can't change the colours, can't you? So the person who came up with the idea of shadow patterns on football strips, club strips, you can change it that's one of the best ways you can change a strip without changing the base colours. You know what I mean? It's phenomenal. They must have, if they've licensed that, if they've copyrighted that, they'll be a billionaire, because we've got the trillionaire. Oh, what a prick. So that must be absolutely fortunate. And I'm watching the Mexico. It's been I think Bosnia coming out doing the tunnel against Canada on Friday night was the first team I've seen that don't have the kind of shadow pattern going in their kit. It's a kind of Aztec thing, going like Inca type thing that Mexico had going on in their shadow pattern. But I've realised over the years that I like a tricolore, I like a tricolour kit. It usually feature green as well. I'm no bigot. The green top, Mexico. I've never seen Mexico. I've never seen the Mexican national team, but a great team to see what history they've got. It's a beautiful green, all green top with the white shorts and the white fold on red socks. The Rangers fan, it's good, but the clash with the other, like no one. It's like the Hungary is the same. The red top with the white shorts and it's the green socks with the white fold. Always looks fantastic. But even though the little green bands across the white fold did Mexico, it was smart. But this big, it's close up, you see it's really busy with this kind of Aztec Inca type pattern they've got going on. South Africa, Bafana, is that their away kit? I think that's an away kit, that all yellow kit. I saw them at Pataudry, Bafana. I have seen them, the South African national team. Chris Boyce going against with Pataudry. What's the link with the Azteca? Alec McLeish, Aberdeen legend. He was the manager of Scotland when we played Mexico in one of the pointless friendlies that we get at this time of year in June, because we're not at a major tournament. Well, this time, so that was a nice wee moment of catharsis that I had to really, really work into my own internal conversation during that game. But it was fantastic. But Czechia, in their away kit, they were in their away kit against South Korea. It's all kind of white, but they've done the reds. It's been done the kind of that old red that looks brown, and the little patches of red. It's normally their whole top is red, the home top. They've kind of reversed it, obviously, on the badge, and that's fine. But for what's supposed to be an all-white kit, the shadow design, it was like impasto or stucco or something like that. More like Artex, and it was so thick looking three-dimensionally, although it wasn't, obviously. And it was amazing. And they've got this thing at the top of the kind of chest of their kit, which is like a cameo or something like that. Like it's in a Bohemian prince's mansion who's trying to impress the Habsburgs or something like that. There was something very Middle European grandiose about the old Czech away kit with the shadow patterns, but that's one of the themes of this World Cup. The big FIFA letters, FIFA. I mean, the actual letters spelling FIFA. What, they must be like 18 foot, 20 feet high. Big FIFA, and they've obviously got to float somewhere dangerously above the roof. They've got the cables coming across for the four corners of the Azteca roof, which goes around the whole stadium, holding up these. They must be about 20 foot high. FIFA, uppercase FIFA, and they're dangling basically above the centre circle. You know, if they tap a kind of 14-tier stadium, and you're thinking they're going to. I think they did the same at the SoFi Stadium, although it would be dangling through the roof because it's roofed. The one in Inglewood, where USA kicked off the World Cup. And the stadium in Toronto, which is the smallest stadium in the competition, and they've just recently extended it to make it World Cup compatible. They had it up across the roof truss behind one of the goals. They had it strapped to the roof truss, which is a total sensible Canadian. You'd expect that of the Canadians. It's no showy at all, but I think they must have allocated these 4 FIFA letters. It's one set of 4 to each of the 16 stadiums that are hosting the competition. Bloody dangerous. I hope it's the final. I hope it's in New Jersey. I hope they're doing the same thing there. When Infantino comes out onto the pitch to present the World Cup, one of them just falls down, and an F would be quite appropriate to fuck Infantino, and it comes down and just kills him if one of these cables is snapping. That's quite a thing, and it's gold, isn't it? And it's supposed to be a play on the World Cup. It's supposed to be because the World Cup's gold. But think about the trophy, and you've got like gold corner flags. There's even gold detailing on the ball, which is the Triadara, I've got it written down here somewhere. What is it called? The Triuda? I can't even write. I'm so tired or so unfit. I can't even write properly. But it means 3 waves. 3 waves. I don't know, Mexican wave. And the ball is 3 different colours, and it's blue. Sorry, is it white? Blue for the USA, green for Mexico, and the red for Canada. And that's why this ball's all kind of multicoloured, and it's all sorts of super fancy panels that have been put together. It's just the sake of marketing and stuff like that. But it looks really good. This particular World Cup ball, nothing will ever beat the tango. You've got to say that if you're my age. But it's a fantastic ball, but it's like the wave. Oh, it's Mexican wave. So that's given. It's Spanish as well. This Triadora, Trionda, the word that I haven't written down properly. The name of that, the new 2026 ball. But that's quite good. The Mexican wave. They've called it the Spanish name. That's quite nice. We're worried about Trump's white supremacy. It's not applying to the FIFA ball. But you're thinking, oh, it's gold. It's gold. It's because of the trophy. It's because of the FIFA World Cup trophy. That's what the wee hints are going. No, it's no. It's because that's what Gianni Infantino's saying. This is how I expect to live. When I come to your country, I've given you the World Cup. When I come to your city, I've given you World Cup games to host. I want my hotel to be made of gold. I want the bog to be made of gold. I want the taxi that takes me for the hotel to the hospitality, the director's box in the stadium to be lined with gold. There's a whole kind of, corporate wankers, guys in their 70s, gazillionaires exploiting young women at a seedy pool party in Dubai kind of vibe, isn't there, about Infantino and just the look of the World Cup, the bunting round about the stadium. And I think it was... it's okay, good. That's why I was kind of worried about Canada. That was lovely. I was starting to worry about the national anthems. I was expecting, especially when it went a cappella, I was expecting the Mexican national anthem to be quite emotional. Welsh and French national anthems, best in the world. The Welsh certainly helped by being the best singers in the world, but you get to hear, they're not qualified for this one, but you get to hear it at the rugby every year if you're really into the Welsh stuff and the few other songs that they'll sing. Absolutely brilliant, the Welsh. But the French national anthem, of course, and the Welsh national anthem are the two best in the world. But I was expecting a bit more passion for the Mexicans. Czechia and the South Koreans, I'm just whatever, But Bosnia, very sad. The Bosnia, but the Canadians, lovely. They went for it. That was proper. It was nice. I liked that. The Canadian national anthem, that was really cool. But it was to be overtaken by the Star Spangled Banner, the old Americans of the USA. Just a few hours later, it was fantastic. That was something else. And I despise Trump, but I love the US. I love the people. I love that. We're all so in love with the U. I'm so bored of the USA. I never will be. Clash. I love the States. That's why it's so heartbreaking to see the filth that's going on there just now. The regime they've got power grabbing in the White House there just now. I hope they can get rid of them as quick as possible. But the national anthem was just absolutely superb. It was phenomenal at the SoFi in Inglewood in Los Angeles. But the Canadians did really well there. They got the clackers going. Great atmosphere. With the smallest stadium, as I say, you can see what it's been. It looked a bit like a car park, a kind of multi-storey car park that was just in the middle of getting built at the two ends of the stadium, where they've obviously expanded it. But yeah, thinking it's the Canucks or the Red. I just call them the Mounties. The Mounties should surely be one of their nicknames, but I don't think it is. But it's like Belgium, isn't it? I'm just thinking I can't. It's like there's parts of the country where it's all French speaking. Quebec, I think they call it. So if they're not playing in Montreal and this, I think this is Vancouver and Toronto. Vancouver's no Willie Johnston played it. He didn't say anything about it being French speaking. But I've been in Toronto, and they've got for 3 weeks, or Scarborough, just outside Toronto. But I would venture into Toronto. But you think they'll go to parts of the country where it'll be Allez les Rouges, singing behind them. Will that happen? Will the French speaking Canada supporters travel to, or is there a separatist thing going on, and it's a bit like Catalonians willing to support Spain? I don't know. It's hard to know, but it's quite interesting. I think that's just like Belgium over here. Now they got the two different languages, like the Flemish and the French. But so that was getting quite into that, and a lot of Old Firm connections there. You had Alistair Johnston, lucky not to get sent off a yellow card offence. It was right, more of a pink card kind of thing. Seen this before, haven't I? Seen this before. Well, before I forget, I'll say the Czechia goal that they scored against the header from Ashai, the Czechia goal that they scored against South Korea in Guadalajara. That was making me rethink the goal that would be the first goal that we conceded in that Old Firm Gimmick Park head. I thought absolutely it should be offside, totally interfering with Jack Butland's line of sight. But there was a guy standing offside in that one who was right in front of the goalkeeper, about 2 yards from him, and because the goalie dived for it, the goal was allowed. So that made me a wee rethink on that. I think Willie Collum had a point. By the rules anyway. I think the rules should be changed, but that wasn't the point of my protesting about a decision, so fair's fair. And there was Alistair Johnson, again, lucky he gets sent off as per, but you'd Derek Cornelius at one end, and Big Katic, who's Bosnian Herzegovinian, and Herzegovina, ethnic Croats, but he's playing for Bosnia now, having started off with Croatia, and he's in there as well. And it was fantastic to see the two of them making a complete art, getting the total piss taken out of them. I think somebody took Katic to the cleaners, and about 2 minutes later, Derek Cornelius, I think, kicked the ball straight to a Bosnian player in the space of about 3 second half minutes. And I'm like, but they were generally playing quite well. And it was nice to see them, nice to see Canada getting their first ever point in the World Cup finals at the third tournament of asking. I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to go on and win that game, but it wasn't technically a brilliant game, but a total corner fest. I've never seen so many corners in one game in my life. He says totally exaggerating, but it was intense and it was nice. It was a great atmosphere, and then I sat and I watched the USA game, and kinetic, absolutely. Pochettino, what a team he's got. He's got a lot of great players, we know that, but he did something amazing. You had Tim Vickery setting it up from South American expert, talking about how Paraguay, their defence is like nightclub bouncers. You're not getting into their box at all. USA couldn't stay out their box. It was magnificent. I felt a bit like somebody who must have been, like, I don't remember 74's last World Cup. I don't remember, but folk at that time seeing Dutch for the first time, the total football thing for the first time. It's like, fucking hell, this was different. This was different from the USA. It was really, really exciting. I say the atmosphere, 70-odd thousand, and an unbelievable stadium. Just a really good version of what the Bernabeu's become. It's got the roof. It's got that amazing kind of soffit level circular screen right the way around the stadium, and that's kinetic as well. That was adding to this permanent movement, a kind of dizzying dynamism, which was reflected by the players on the pitch. The way the USA started that game, get it fucking forward, as we say in the main stand at Ibrox, and that's exactly what they were doing. Just destroyed Paraguay 3-0 at half time, going on 10. It was scintillating. It's just, that's the kind of game you want to be watching between 2 o'clock and like 4 o'clock in the morning. It will definitely keep you awake right up to the very. I knew they were going to make it 4 by the last kick of the ball. I didn't, but you think you do because of the way the whole thing is breaking down. It's a magical moment, and I think part of that kinetic thing was the kit. It was the kit that they're wearing. I love the USA. I love the USA men's national team. I don't like the USA women's national team. No, and I do a fair bit of watching international women's football as well. This isn't a sexist thing. It can be because it's other women's teams that I'm wanting to beat them. But I think they're a bit. I don't know, there's something it's because they dominate and they win so easily and they come a bit smug about themselves or whatever, and because it's women's soccer, it's such a big thing in the States, and that kind of social status that it has, I don't know, it allows them a kind of base of self-promotion or whatever that the way they go on at World Cups and that, I don't like it. But anyway, that's, and I love the Scotland women's national team. It's not sexist. I wrote articles of when Saturday comes about Japan, when they won the World Cup and beating the States in the final like that. I loved that. Was a momentous moment. I was there. I was in Cologne the night that Japan beat Germany in the semi-final. It was unreal, and it was, the backstory to that, it was a phenomenal achievement. It's one of the greatest sporting achievements of all time, as far as I'm concerned. And I wrote articles about Homare Sawa winning the female Ballon d'Or. I thought, it's just, don't bother with Messi. He should give her his Ballon d'Or as well. Going to town on the pronouns there, but. So it's not a sexist thing, but the men's team, it's the opposite. It's a really strange thing, because you think, oh, Alec, you seem to hate the state. You seem to hate the kind of Donald Trump and all that. Aye, Donald, he's a cunt. He's not. It's not to do with America as a country as such. I've been all over the States on holiday plenty of times and that, and I've got family in Canada and what have you. And by the way, Toronto, that's the thing. Toronto is the only out of the 16 stadiums, the 16 cities, 16 places, 16 locations that the World Cup games are taking place in. That's the only one I've actually seen sport in myself. I saw the Blue Jays at the Sky Dome, as it was called then, just opened in Toronto in May 1989, that would be. So that's May 1989. So the Blue Jays at Sky Dome playing the Seattle Mariners. So I've never seen any soccer or whatever in the USA, because I like to do the local sport. And you go to Germany or whatever, like, you want to do the football, you want to do the sport that everybody's into. You go to Spain, whatever, you want to go to the football in Spain because that's what the people are into. Whereas go to the States, and I was in Canada, it's the baseball. And you're going in the summer, so that's the baseball season's on. That's one there's a real feeling for. And I went to see the Cubs in Chicago, going to Wrigley Field. What an experience! Chicago not hosting this time in the USA, but Chicago Fire were playing on the Saturday night or something as well, and it's like, this is only Saturday night in Chicago. It's right out of town as well. I can see my wife's face going, we're doing the baseball thing, can we just... So I couldn't do that. I've never seen... I would have probably done it if I could have. I've never seen MLS soccer or anything like that. But I saw the Canada national team at Easter Road, and I've seen the USA national team at Hampden. I was proud to see them, the men's national team, because I think the moment I really realised was in 2002 when they were in Korea, away to Korea and Japan. The States are playing in the group stage. I think they played South Korea. I can't remember which city, Ulsan or whatever, or Seoul. Whatever. I can't remember exactly where it was played, but everybody remembers the Korean crowds that powered their team to fourth place in that World Cup. The USA men's national team go there, and it's not just that the entire crowd is deafeningly against them, definitely pro the home team. They also finished one each that game. An amazing, brave, just balls out performance by the USA men's team. But when Korea scored their goal, South Korea scored their goal, did a little ice skating, mimicking ice skating celebration. I think it might have been women's ice skaters. There's supposed to be some bust up between an American and a Korean ice skater at whatever, the Olympics or the World Skating Championships. And such was the sporting fervour for South Korea and their hatred of the USA. Not North Korea, South Korea. The rivalry. This was the men's football team, the first thing they were going to. You know the machismo pish that surrounds men's football. They're quite happy because the hatred of America was far greater, far deeper than their hatred of pretending to ice skate like a girl. This was it. Maybe it's male ice skaters. I don't know, but anyway. So that I just thought the hatred. They actually hate the USA here, and the USA meant like other. Not only would their fans, whatever fans they had in the city, be totally drowned out, but back home they don't know that there's people supporting them back home. They know that that's a kind of cult thing almost still. The base support for the ethnic and the kind of cult base of support, no mainstream support whatsoever, particularly in 2002. There'll be more now. It's getting more popular, soccer in the USA. But I remember I just moved to a new house in 2002 as well, and one of the things was cable for the first time. And I remember watching the Letterman show about a month later. USA denied by a Scotsman called Dallas in the quarter-final against Germany from getting to the semi-final for the second time in their history. The first time they got to the semi-finals in the history, the first World Cup in 1930, there was a team full of Scotsmen and they were managed by a Scotsman. There's a wee connection there at Dallas, Scotsman, but it all comes round. He shafts them against the Germans a wee bitty in the quarter-final in 2002. But that got a bit of attention from mainstream America. They're on the Letterman show. It's Landon Donovan, Claudio Reyna, guys that I know so well. We all know so well. And Letterman's plainly never heard of them. So your name is what? He says, oh, right, okay. And where do you play? Oh, Germany. Is the soccer big over there? They not usually win it. So what he does to demonstrate or to make the audience realise how great these guys are at their chosen craft is he takes them up to the top of this. I've been outside. I don't even know what channel it is. NBC, CBS. I don't know what channel Letterman shows on. But he takes them up to the top of the building, top of the skyscraper, onto the roof, and makes them kick a soccer ball from the roof of that skyscraper, in which his studio is, over to the roof of the next skyscraper. And they do it, and that just proves how great they are. That's the most entertaining use he can find for soccer. And it's like Claudio Reyna and Landon Donovan's not right. So I've always this admiration for them, that they managed to do this, and the way they constantly... It's not about the size of the country. China only qualifying for one World Cup, and we know how much... Uruguay have won 2 World Cups, not an endless Copa Americas, with a population only 3 million, because they properly love the game. So the fact that I know it's a massive country, the States, it's basically a continent, but I still think they're just against the odds all the time, the USA men's team, up until just recently. They've got a fantastic record in qualification, even, into the 21st century, the 1990s, etc. But of getting out the first round, quarterfinals, last 16, absolutely tremendous. A record that we're really jealous of here in Scotland. But to get treated like that, to know that there's no mainstream support for you back home, you're really on your own in a foreign country. These Koreans, it didn't bother them at all, and I was really proud. I went to see USA at Hampden, and a friendly drew 1 each for the US men's national team. I'm really glad I saw them, and I'm watching this game last night, and they just destroyed them. They absolutely destroyed them. I think the final bit of kinetic, and the other thing with the USA is I used to hate their strips. I used to hate, as a kid, a young man in my 20s, I'm watching their strip at Italia 90, their strip at USA 94, they're hosting. I think that's embarrassing. You see folk walking about wearing it, especially Rangers supporters, red, white and blue thing. I'm like, that's houfing. I can't stand that. It looks like the football kit made by a nation who doesn't understand football. And it's the same again last night. It looks like a sailor's outfit. So I don't know what it is they're wearing, but a couple of times they've went kind of mainstream, kind of European almost in the style of the kit, and I'm thinking, no, I take it all back. Be you, just be you. And last night, or earlier as this morning, I'm watching them against Panama, and the red. It's what's happened there is it's hoops they're wearing. In the language of football shirts, and in Europe and South America, we know that as hoops. But yet the hoops are made up of the most famous stripes in the world. They're stripes as well. And the Paraguayans, whose fans on the stadium, the Roje Blancos, they've got the big banner saying, they know they know what stripes are. But yet they're usually wearing red and white stripes, but they're in their away kit. And here's this team that are wearing stripes that are actually hoops, and it just that kind of summed up that in the stadium, which is like the Bernabeu. It's got the roof and it's got this thing. Dizzying heights or whatever, all these various stands and tiers, and just such a kind of like, it's like a kind of space sky line. It's like a spaceship has landed. Unbelievable. Panama are just like, we don't know what's happening here, and it was tremendous. And they kept talking about how the USA is only three. They'd only ever won by 3 goals in a World Cup finals match, and against Belgium, their very first World Cup finals match with all these Scots. Andy Auld, or Ali Auld was one of the guys that played for that USA team that got to the semi-finals of the 1930 World Cup, the very first World Cup. He played for Ardere Thistle in the juniors. I know the juniors 100 years ago, it was a lot more, it was a lot smaller, a step up to the top professional ranks from the juniors. Juniors was like a parallel league in those days, as opposed to being not even the feeder league that it became in later years, in later decades. But it's still quite a hell of a step to be going for playing for Ardere Thistle, just 2 towns along the road from where I was born, to play in the World Cup semi-final, managed by a Scotsman as well. And then there last night, I'm thinking already, when I watch the States now, we've got Carlos Bocanegra, Claudio Reyna, we've got our various Captain Americas, huge links with Rangers, but we've also got DeMarcus Beasley and Morris Edu and that as well. And there was Malik Tillman. There's Malik Tillman on the pitch. How fantastic was he in that game last night, or the early hours of this morning? And he's just absolutely running the show. I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud that I'd seen him. He was only at Rangers for a season. He did magical things when he was at Rangers that season, scoring that goal against Partick Thistle when he didn't realise he was supposed to give him the ball back. That was tremendous as well. But the goal against PSV Eindhoven, who he later joins as well, the big towering header. That was against Union St Gilles to get us into the game against PSV. But fantastic to see him there. This Rangers link, and then the last time they'd won a game by 3 was against Paraguay in that 1930 World Cup, but they'd never scored 4 before in a World Cup finals match. And you can see that Paraguay pull one back in the second half. He's taken half various players, didn't have Pulisic and that. It's Pochettino because the game's won at half time. But you think, get the goal, and the final goal, the 4th goal, is scored with the last kick of the ball. For the first time ever, the USA scored 4 at the World Cup finals. And with all these Scottish links and all these Rangers links, it's scored by Gio Reyna, son of Claudio Reyna, former Rangers midfielder, named after Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. His mate Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, former Rangers midfielder, former Rangers manager, and he'd come on as a sub for Malik Tillman, former Rangers player. It was a magical moment for the States, and it was a magical night for me. I think it was all about Rangers, really, if I'm being perfectly honest about it. My snagging items from the last... The snagging item from this World Cup, from the shame for me, Mister, I'm a massive football fan. I'm so into football. I've realised, while out of the 12 groups at this World Cup, there's not a single group at this World Cup where there's not at least one team. I've seen at least one of the national teams in each of the 12 groups at this World Cup. But there's not one of those 12 groups where I've seen all 4 of the national teams. The group be Canada, Bosnia, Qatar, and Switzerland. That's what's the one team that's my best one. There's also Australia, Turkey, and the USA. I've seen the 3 of them. I've not seen Paraguay, But that other group, it's Switzerland. Switzerland too. They've hosted half a Euros and a World Cup finals, and the Germans always, we've decided to become Nazis. Who can we play first? Switzerland. They get you in for the first fit. We've just been pummeled in the Second World War. We're scared to show our faces again. We need to get a first post-war international. Switzerland. Stuttgart. I will see Stuttgart. We've got the old Germany, but DDR, they've now come back. We're all unified. Germany again. You want a game to prove, Switzerland, Stuttgart, do you mind meeting there? It's always Switzerland playing the Germans when the Germans need to change what the country's all about to show the national team. It's the national team of a kind of newly altered country. But they're never going to get to a final, but they're never going to fail to qualify for stuff. The Swiss are just the most boring team, probably neutral countries, but they're probably the most boring team in the world. There's some cracking players, fantastic, and they're doing the business against Qatar right now as I record this probably. But that's one I've not seen. I was going to see them in the Nations League later on, but it's really embarrassing. I've only seen 22 out of the 48 teams at this World Cup, and that's a slagging for me, but it's also testament to how it's more democratically spread about the various confederations, because obviously it's much easier to see countries in your own confederation, the various qualifying campaigns that your nation will play. So it's all UEFA. There's only 5 of the UEFA men's national teams that I haven't seen, or 6 out of the 55 that I haven't seen in the flesh. Switzerland's the biggest, and hopefully we're going to see them soon. But it's also a testament to the fact that Gianni Infantino is bribing the hell out of all the African and CONCACAF and South American countries to give himself more power. The last pod was 2 hours, 30 minutes long. This one's going to be a bit shorter, probably not much. That's 3 in a row though. I've done 3 pods in a row that are 2.5 hours. No more. I'm taking them down. I'm taking them right down, folks. Getting down to a kind of normal time because nobody's watching them. Why would you? I don't want you to watch them. I actually feel sorry for anybody who does watch them. I can't put out material that's making me feel sorry for me for being unable to shut up, but also feeling sorry for the folk that are watching it. That's not how it's supposed to work. But Michael Mann's Heat is 170 minutes long, and I'm 171 minutes long. The fact that I'm getting pods up to over the 150-minute mark, I think I can see what I'm trying to do here. I can see what's actually working in the back of my mind. I'm not going to do it. Time to step back. The opening game of the 2010, it's just so much. The first one I did, the 2.5 hours long, it was summing up that season, a tumultuous season. Then I went away on holiday for 2 weeks to give you a break, give me a break. So it's 2 weeks of Rangers news happens and other stuff. So I've got to relate that in the next pod back. So it's 2.5 hours long. And then the one I did the other day, that's summing up Scotland, the World Cup, what we've been through with Scotland in major finals and how much this means. Everybody's got to talk about how much it means to them personally. I'm getting on that bandwagon. That's what it seems to be. Every time you interview somebody at Vox Pops, like talking to somebody in Faneuil Square or whatever it is, they all want to go to Cheers and all that, but my grandpa means so much to it. I've been watching them for 50 years. It means so much to my Waynes and all that. There's folk that are like 16-year-old. It means the world to me. No, it doesn't. I've been watching this for 50 years. But you've got to talk about how much it means to you, so I go in the back of that. I'm going to take it. Red Star Belgrade. I covered that. The fact that I got that one right. But the opening game of 2010, I said in the last podcast, because it was the opening game. This World Cup is Mexico against South Africa. I kind of repeat of a return fixture because South Africa, they opened the 2010 World Cup. The opening game was against Mexico. South Africa, Mexico. It was 1 each. I thought it was 1 each. Then I thought, was it 3-1? Had a brain fart. Found out, of course, it was definitely 1 each. Although Mexico won this one by 2 clear goals. The tournament favourites. I didn't talk about my tournament favourites. You can't, do a World Cup preview pod like I did the last one, 2.5 hours long, and no mention your favourites. Who you think's going to win the thing? You're supposed to go, well, Scotland, I think are going to win it. We're definitely going to beat Brazil. What is it? The folk in their 60s now? How can you change your par? It's no funny, and it's cringe, as the kids say, which is also what the kids say about somebody my age saying cringe, although I think it's folk in their 30s, the last ones to use cringe as genuinely contemporaneous argot. So, tournament favourites, it's Spain and it's France. Spain and France, obviously. Spain. But my dark horse is England. And it's not my dark horse, it's who I think is going to win it. I think England are going to win it. They shouldn't because of the heat and all that, but that's why they're a dark horse. But who's your dark horses, Alec? Who's your dark horses? England have been at the final of the last 2 Euros and all that, but no, World Cups, you don't get dark horses. The World Cups, dark horses, Morocco in 2022 or Bulgaria in 1994. You have a great run, you get South Korea and Turkey in 2002. it stops at the semis. It stops at the semi-finals. It's you have to work like hell. You have to work through decades, through generations, almost to get onto that list. It's one new winner kind of every 16 years in the World Cup. That's why it's a great tournament. That's why England fucked it up by winning it and then never beating another final ever. But they've started getting to other finals of the Euros at least. Just like Spain, they won it in 2010. They've not been in another World Cup. They've won their only World Cup final as well. Spain are the only other nation like England to do that. Although Spain didn't do it at home, did it in a different confederation as well. But Spain had won the Euros in '64, beaten the final of the Euros in '84, won the Euros in 2008. They finished, I think, 4th or 3rd, definitely top 4 of the 1950 World Cup. It wasn't alien territory to them, and they were known as massive underachievers on the world stage because the clubs, see the Barcelona, Real Madrid dominating Europe, stuff like that, as they still do historically. But it wasn't out of the blue completely. And you get the Dutch, maybe, the way they arrived on the scene in 1974, even though Ajax finished runners-up in the '69 European Cup, and then Feyenoord won it in 1970, and Ajax won it the 3 in a row. After that, it was kind of announcing slowly, and it was in those days it was mostly Dutch players in the Ajax and Feyenoord teams, with a couple of exceptions. So the world knew that the Dutch were coming onto something. And the Dutch have never won it. The only team to get to the World Cup final 3 times and never win the thing. Then they won the Euros in '88 to kind of justify it backwards as well. It's maybe the Germans in '54 suddenly kind of coming out the blue and winning the World Cup, but they've certainly justified it since. So you don't get it's because of the temperatures and because they haven't won it since 1966. It's why England are dark horses. But I'm going to go for England to win this World Cup, and that's why Scotland will get through to the second round as well, because we'll have to get fucking once again. Oh, it's great, and a great World Cup. Like, we've won the World Cup, and you've got. I don't have a problem with England. I'd like to see England win the World Cup if we don't, to be quite honest with you. But it does get a bit annoying at times. I still fall into that cliched old 1970s London Broadcasting Corporation stereotype Scottish type person. And last but not least, Red Bull Salzburg. I said it was Red Bull Leipzig that was in for Danny Röhl. I did my podcast the other day. That's my last snagging item. The 2.5 hour podcast. Number one, it's because the news had just hit before I started recording this pod. It was supposed to be all about Scotland at the World Cup. And number two, and I think this is shared by a lot of Rangers supporters, I don't really care. I think that shows I don't really care. Some other team wants Danny Röhl. It's Red Bull, somebody or other. I don't really care. I'd say Red Bull Salzburg. I saw Johnny McFarlane of Rangers Review doing the same thing on Friday morning, and he kind of styled it out and said, no, I was bringing it back round to RB Salzburg via RB Leipzig. I think he genuinely was. But it's an easy mistake to make. It's a mistake I made, and that gets me onto that subject, which it's a Rangers pod usually I'm doing here. I feel as if with the Danny Röhl thing, this is the second one, and this one won't go away either. He's probably actually left Rangers and gone to RB Salzburg by the time I post this podcast. It's the second time this has happened. It's got legs on it, the Wolfsburg thing. He eventually kind of swept that away at a press conference. RB Salzburg, unlike Wolfsburg, RB Salzburg are always going to be in Europe. They're a kind of... not a Rangers, but he likes to fix. I will fix you. It seems to be a thing with Danny Röhl. He really loved taking us from 8th to first place for only a few hours, but he would go on and on and on a lot about how we'd been in 8th place when he arrived. He did the same at Sheffield Wednesday, saving them from relegation. I think he's got a wee bit saviour complex or whatever, but he likes it's a good way of establishing what you can do. Like, I'm really needed. I can do the basics. So if you're really bad, I'll be able to get you to a normal rate of performance that will make me look great by comparison. And I think with Salzburg having finished, was it 3rd? I think they finished in the Austrian Bundesliga. He can do the saviour bit, but also the other thing that he's reported to love about being at Rangers is he can have regular access to European football. RB Salzburg have been in Europa League and the Champions League all sorts of times, really regular. And I think you can only do this. We seem to be at the stage that it's rumoured that we're negotiating compensation for him, which is fine, because then it's a kind of win. It's not like we're having to sack the guy. He's getting taken away from us and we're getting money from it. It's like he's achieved, basically. It's a bit like Gerrard's, a different version of Steven Gerrard thing. It's annoying, but Danny Röhl's not going to be annoying when he leaves. We're just not going to be annoyed if Danny Röhl leaves at all, but I think it's at the stage now. This is the second one. This seems to have more arms and legs about it, this story, if he goes into next season. Unless something amazingly solid, he comes out and makes an amazingly solid statement, and maybe he's just waiting for pre-season to start before he does that. It's going to be all next season. Are you leaving though? Is it going? Are we just waiting for another club to come in for you? It's getting to the instability stage. But the amazing thing about it is it feels kind of natural. I was talking about this with the Wolfsburg rumours were doing the rounds a couple of months ago. It was on Jers Night one Friday night a couple of months ago with Brian. Brian was asking us about it. I was saying there's something about this. It feels like I'm not really panicking about it, and nobody else is either. No other Rangers supporters are really panicking about this. It doesn't. There's enough, I think, presence from Andrew Kavanagh. I know we've got Jim Gillespie coming in now, and he's starting to become more vocal, making his presence felt. But it's kind of segueing from the fact that Kavanagh has been a de facto CEO for this entire season because he's had to clear out the previous. He's had to clear out Thelwell and Patrick Stewart and all that as well. While he's clearing this shit up. But I think we all kind of trust Andrew Kavanagh, and we know he's really getting it. He's starting to understand what's required. And we know that we've got the technical advisors in there. We know Danny Röhl himself come in and immediately assessed the squad that Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell and Russell Martin had put together. And that the criticism that he's obviously made of that squad is what's helped, one of the major factors, but there's a few factors probably, in Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell then losing their job as director of football and CEO, not respectively. So it's like, put it this way, it's a strange thing to sum up how we're kind of calm about this. It feels like the processes are going on in the background, which is what we've always, anybody in charge at Rangers who's had this ambition to set us up in that continental style of having the director of football. We don't have one as such just now, but we've got this structure behind or above the head coach, and it's a head coach rather than a manager. I think that's happened already. I think it's happening. I think we feel as if maybe the names aren't on it right. A few consultants need to become executive directors or something for us to know it, for it to be solid that we've got this structure behind. But it feels like that structure's there already, and I think we're starting. I genuinely feel as if we'll manage this properly. And there's also such a high turnover of managers. We should be panicking. We should be like, oh my God, here we go again. All we ever do is talk about how we can't keep changing managers. And now we're changing. We're not even having, one every season. It's two a season we're getting now. Since Steven Gerrard left, it's been more than one a season, managers at Rangers, if Danny Röhl goes now. So we should be panicking about that, but I think we've got a lot of faith in the structure, and it feels like because of our connection with Red Bull, we're getting drawn into this Red Bull infrastructure through Parag Marathi, if nothing else, being the chairman at Leeds, and them having the Red Bull sponsorship, and the personalities, the people they've got in the technical areas, the people they're looking at. It feels like this would just be part of a kind of corporate in-house restructuring. And nobody's really bought it. It's all kind of behind the scenes almost, even though it's the guy who's supposed to be our manager, and that's the biggest deal of all time at Rangers if the manager changes. It doesn't feel like that. There's also does anybody fucking drink Red Bull? I've not had Red Bull for years. I think I've maybe had one can ever, and it does give you wings. That's a problem. My big mate used to, when I was in student digs, a big Kiwi fella, big Matt, he worked. He's from New Zealand, and he's at uni and that, and he was working at nights in the restaurant in Buchanan Galleries. He worked in the restaurant or at nights when it shut at night, and him and all his colleagues were spending their tips at their own bar. He would have vodka Red Bull, and he says it's fucking great. And I'd get him vodka Red Bull when we were out drinking and that. It's fantastic, and you get pissed. But you go back home, and you're absolutely exhausted, and you're absolutely pissed, but you're totally wired as well. So you're sitting looking at the ceiling, sobering up over the course of 3 or 4 hours. It's quite brutal that way. It is a horrible drink. I think it's like the Meerkat thing. The price comparison website, compare the market. I think it only makes its money now for selling the toys. Well, the Meerkat thing took over. They're bringing out books and all that. The Meerkat characters, Alexei, Oleg, I can't remember the name of them. You see, compare the Meerkat joke. It's been going for like decades now, and they're bringing out books and stuff. There's all sorts of different characters. There wee outfits you can buy, like garden gnomes that are the Meerkats. Where they compare the Meerkat. I think that's where they're actually making their money. I think price comparison websites only making the money. And I think it's the same with Red Bull. I think I don't know. I don't know that enough folk. I'm Coca-Cola. It's going to be Coca-Cola for me all the way. That is the greatest advertisers of all time, and it works on me all the time. Even Ireland Brew, I think it's a bit of a cliche. It's a close second. Fanta, the Nazis invented that because they couldn't get Coca-Cola. The German thing, Fantastischer, is the. You've seen the YouTube stuff about that, but that's a German Iron Brew. But Coca-Cola is for me. Red Bull, I just don't. You're still getting it in around and that for folk, but I don't. If you're still out drinking with pals and that, it's been a while for me. Going to weddings and stuff, but I don't think enough folk drink it to sustain the amount of. Pedro Caixinha was a manager of one of these Red Bulls in Brazil. You've got the Red Bull, New York Red Bull, and RB Salzburg, RB Leipzig, the biggest kind of example. But I think that they actually made their money now from the sporting tickets, attendance, the crowds coming into these things. I think that's where they're actually making their money, and the drinks thing's just a cover, because nobody's drinking that piss, are they? Drinking it, but of course, Mr. fucking Saint Jurgen Klopp with his Budweiser, Trivago, Red Bull. Of course, he's Mr. New Teeth, hair plugs, working class, high morality hero Klopp. I always knew he was a prick. Kind of performative stuff. That team they beat 7-0 in the FA Cup. No, they played really well. I won't listen to anybody take the minute Liverpool get beat. Fucking cheating bastards. He was always a wanker. I thought Klopp, great manager though, no doubt about it. Not the worst guy in the world, let's be honest. But I just thought his whole, he's a great guy thing was a bit of a cover, a bit plastic, a bit horrible. If I'm being quite honest with you, but he's in there apparently running the Red Bull Corporation, the sports side of it, and he's advocating for Danny Röhl to go to RB Salzburg. Why would he do that? Because, well, Danny Röhl, part of everything else, is East Germany. He was born in East Germany when it was still in the DDR, and they get the value of. I mean, it's terrible what Red Bull do in terms of, particularly what they did to Salzburg. Austria Salzburg is they used to be known. Casino Austria Salzburg is when they got to the 1994 UEFA Cup final. But it's, in the scheme of things, if you've grown up with the hardships of the DDR, where there's no corporate stuff going on, you're probably thinking a fizzy drinks company making nice bright strips and bringing kind of Bundesliga success to East Germany. I'll take that. Never mind, Lokomotiv Leipzig and all that, who are riddled with neo-Nazis stuff. This is what we'll do. It's nice and cheery. It's better than the DDR days. Fair enough, it's not the biggest crime in the world, but Danny Röhl was at RB Leipzig, learning the training game there, learning the coaching game there, and it's not just that he's worked with like Ralph Hasenhüttl at Southampton. He worked in the coaching staff. I know he's worked with Hansi Flick, the German national team, and Bayern Munich as well, but it's a kind of alma mater for Danny Röhl. And when you think Ralph Hasenhüttl, he played for Casino Austria Salzburg before it became RB Salzburg. He played for them in the 90s, and he managed Wolfsburg as well, didn't he? And did he manage Salzburg? He managed Leipzig. He actually managed Leipzig. Ralph Hasenhüttl. He's known as the Alpine Klopp. He's the Austrian version of Jurgen Klopp. That's one of his nicknames back over there. And I think you've got that thing about the Rangers support. Most football supports don't really want their opinions messed with, so we're kind of invested. We've all had to make the decision, haven't we? Where do we lie in the Danny Röhl thing? I think with Andrew Kavanagh coming out and just backing him straight away, that was good. You want that certainty going forward. So he's coming out and backed him straight away. He's going to be staying. But so many of us were also forced to declare whether, the social media age especially, I'm quite happy for him to stay. I think he definitely improved us. He's a young manager. He inherited a car crash. But we saw signs of the Red Bull, the excitement of the Red Bull style, the 4-2-2-2. That kind of style of football, where it can go. But he's taken on a team that's a new team, so many new players in it, and a team that's not used to winning. We saw with Celtic, they've got the thing. Even though they've had 15 managerial changes this season, they've still got all these players who have what Philip Clement would call automatisms. They're used to winning. They're used to going through the process of winning stuff. They're used to playing together. I saw it happening that when we're beating them 2-0 at Ibrox at half time and they come back to 2 each. So they just couldn't help themselves almost, Celtic. Just going through the motions of winning, of clawing their way back into games. That's just how they've been doing it for years. We saw it took Steven Gerrard 3 years to get to that stage with us. So you weren't judging them too harshly. the fact that he couldn't see out those games against Celtic, the crash, the post-split fixtures crash, that was maybe a bit more unforgivable, and it was definitely a massive mistake. I think it was criminally negligent how he lined us up against Motherwell with the 4-2-2-2 being so narrow against such an expansive system. After that, I think it's just the undertow of everything the players had went through this season. It was horrific, the atmosphere in the club when Russell Martin was in charge. So I wouldn't blame him too much. But we're all thinking, yeah, that's fine. It's not the majority, but it's not, I wouldn't call it a minority either. There's a sizable portion of the Rangers support and a loud portion of the Rangers support who want Röhl sacked, who want rid of him. And I think what we've got here, with somebody coming in, offering us money for him, and it feeling like he's still moving within a corporation that we are part of as we get sucked into that Red Bull. It feels like a conciliation service. It feels like a treaty that keeps everybody happy, almost. It's a treaty between all sides, both within our support, but also within the boardroom. Also within the players, probably, and no doubt between Danny Röhl and his family. Danny Röhl, because his family are still over there. I don't know if he's bringing them over and he's in the process of bringing them over to Scotland just now. Maybe Danny Röhl's going to come out tomorrow and just announce, the intention of going to Salzburg. I'm definitely the Rangers manager. But he's taking his time about it. It's taken a while for this to get dismissed. It's not being dismissed. So I think his family are probably over there as well. It's he can speak his own language and he's within his own wheelhouse, as we say, in terms of coaching. The whole culture at RB Salzburg will be suited to the culture of coaching that Danny Röhl understands that he was raised in. And I can't see how anybody who doesn't have a baseline affection for Rangers, otherwise need to join us in good times, whatever, would not want to go back to something like that, where he'll be making as much money, if not more. It's a big enough concern, RB Salzburg, not as big as us, but it's big enough. And it's an easy move, because the hatred for the team from the fans who've been there forever is really confusing to Danny Röhl at Rangers. The culture at Rangers, the fan culture in particular. It's great when it's great, but when it's terrible, it's absolutely terrible. So I think he's going to go, and I think he should go, because it's got beyond the joke the way this is dragged out. It's supposed to be a short list of 4. This is another rumour. Derek McInnes, Steven Gerrard, Kevin Muscat, who asked us to wait for him in October, and we couldn't when he was over and trying to finish his gig over in China. And another who could be, I think it's going to be fucking Jesse Marsh. I'm convinced it's going to be Jesse Marsh. I'm just being fatalistic. I don't like that guy at all, but just the Leeds connection and the kind of RB thing, the Red Bull thing, I feel as if we're going to end up with Jesse. He'll do just well enough with Canada to kind of say, oh, he's a good manager, but at the same time know so well that he's going to get taken away for millions by anybody else. I feel as if it's going to be him. I think the last option will be the Red Bull option, but Andrew Kavanagh said, fuck the player trading model when he got in Lawrence Shankland, and I think he's now going to say, fuck the head coach working under a technical director model. This mob need the league title. I want to get the technical director in and do the continental thing. I'm no bothered about the Blazer, particularly the Blazer and the Brogues. I want us to be able to perform in a way that lets us win the Scottish title and perform well in Europe. I hated the Europa League group stage last season. It was awful compared to what we usually do. There was no passion in it whatsoever. It really worried me. But there's no doubt about it. Rangers, we don't go forward just now. We need to win the league. We need to win the league title. And I think Andrew Kavanagh, who will not have failed to see what happened with Martin O'Neill and coming back to Celtic twice, and what he did, get rid of all the fancy ideas, all the futuristic ideas, the progressive ideas, get the fucking league won. And he'll think Derek McInnes is the closest we can manage to that. Or it'll be Steven Gerrard, and I don't want Gerrard coming back. I think he's done, Steven Gerrard, and I don't want him to kind of ruin his legacy any more than he already did by leaving us. I had no real problem with us leaving us. That was an inevitable part of the agreement. He was using us as a stepping stone. Didn't work out for him since then, though. He's done nothing. So, no, I don't want Steven Gerrard coming back, and he talks too much as well. I'm getting sick of listening to him. Oh, he's big kind of... Anyway, I don't want to go on about that, but I think the other thing that makes it not so controversial, I think, is the fact that RB Leipzig, a Red Bull team, is the centre of my happiest memory of all time, and a lot of you guys as well. when Rangers beat Red Bull Leipzig in that 2022 semi-final second leg at Ibrox. It's the greatest game of my life, the greatest night of my life supporting Rangers, the greatest day of my life, the greatest match I've ever been to. It had everything we needed, everything we wanted. It was phenomenal, a phenomenal moment. And RB Leipzig were one of the two teams out in that pitch that night. I think that's a real effect. I'm supposed to be in a few. Tomorrow it's going to be Scotland are kicking off against Haiti. The whole point of this pod was to talk about Scotland against Haiti. And again, it's going to be 2.5 hours before I do that. Look at this. I'm doing it again. I'm going to it. I know in 23 minutes. We're in the group with the champions of Africa. Massive asterisks on that group C. Massive asterisks above the champions of Africa for Morocco. I think that's still being contested in the courts. But they'll definitely finish fourth at last World Cup. And then there's Brazil, who have won the World Cup more times than anybody else in this group. This is Haiti, who have qualified for even fewer World Cups than ourselves. This is our chance. This is the team that we have to beat. They are a country of nearly 12 million people. You'll have seen all the little assessments of them in the news and stuff like that. I always, Hispanic, never really knew properly how to use the term. I was never really sure of how to properly use the term Hispanic. And then you have Haiti, or half of the island of Hispaniola, which is occupied by Haiti and the Dominican Republic, in which they all speak Spanish. Dominican Republic, but they all speak French or kind of Creole. In Haiti, they're nicknamed Le Grenadiers. The French thing, that's no Hispanic. They're not speaking Spanish. But that's the island of Hispaniola, and of course, it's total turmoil. It has been for years. Politically run by gangs, basically gangsters. There's a scene in Michael Mann's Miami Vice movie from 20 years ago. Crockett and Tubbs, Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell go and meet a top drug dealer, and they have to go to Port-au-Prince. They have to go to Haiti. It's so dangerous. That's how much danger they enjoy. It's a byword, Haiti, for danger, just out of control, lawlessness. So Haiti, Le Grenadiers, haven't played their entire qualifying campaign. They didn't play a home game. They haven't played in Haiti for 5 years. They played their home games at Curaçao, of all places. And it's a pure shame for them, but they've qualified for the first World Cup since 1974. World Cup we qualified for as well. They played 3 games at Olympic Stadium. They played the Italians, the Poles, and Argentina. They played them all at Olympic Stadium in Munich. And Dino Zoff was on this great run of 11 clean sheets or something, a run of clean sheets. I really need to look up and find out who'd scored against Italy, past Dino Zoff for Italy before Haiti scored against them at the start of that run, because the first goal he concedes is to Haiti in the first goal of the 74 World Cup that Dino Zoff concedes. But then Italy score 3 goals, they win the game 3-1. But it's a bit like, when was it Uwe Rahn that scored for Borussia Mönchengladbach? It was in the enclosure, the East enclosure for that game in the UEFA Cup against Chris Woods, and then Chris Woods from that point on sets a British, for minutes without conceding, sets a British club clean sheet record. And it's broken. Once he's got past the record, and I remember being in the stadium, also in the enclosure that Saturday afternoon, and cheering as the clock got to the point where he needed to get to. It was like an hour into the game. That's it, you've beat the record, Chris Woods. And the next goal was scored in that same game by Adrian Sproat of Hamilton Accies. It's a bit like that. I don't know who Dino Zoff conceded to at the start. He was at 11 clean sheets, but the one that ended it was scored by Haiti, who then went on to lose 7-0 to the Poles in their second game. Poland finished third in that World Cup, a great Poland team, Gregor Lato and all that. And they lost 4-1 to Argentina in their last group game in 74, but Argentina would win the next World Cup, so no great disgrace as far as that's concerned. They won, it wasn't the Gold Cup, but it was whatever the equivalent was in Central and in North America in 1973. That's how they qualified, the old equivalent of the Gold Cup. That's how they qualified for the 74 World Cup. They reached the final 3 times in a row in the 70s, and they won it in 73, and that got them into that 74 World Cup. They have, I think they reached the semis, maybe 2019, or was it the actual final of the Gold Cup? It became the Gold Cup, the CONCACAF Confederation, in about 89, 91 period. It's all kind of streamlined in that. It's not got the same heft, it's not got the same kind of reputation as the Euros, certainly, or the Copa America. I think it's almost like a qualifying tournament to get you into the Copa America, because the Copa America have had like Canada, the USA, they've even had Japan in as a guest, Mexico sometimes as a guest to make up the numbers in various Copa America formats. But the CONCACAF thing, like the World Cup qualifying sometimes in the past few years, the past decades since, well, just the trouble that's happening politically in Haiti. They haven't even entered, they haven't participated in the competition because they can't get a team together. It's just no safe. But this, I think they've been in the group stage of the last 3 Gold Cups. I don't think that's got the same equivalent as playing like in the Euros, in the group stage, the finals of the Euros. It's not got the same heft as that, but it certainly requires a bit of tournament knowledge. I'm hoping Scotland's tournament knowledge. We've only gained 2 draws out of the 6 games we've played in the last 2 Euros, but I hope it's been a bit more streetwise in terms of tournament football than the Haitians are. They've got a guy who scored like 44 goals for them, Haiti, playing up front, but that fellow who played at Wolves, they've got a guy in goals who's the kind of captain, I think, who's playing for Bastia, Corsica in the French second tier. They're a decent level, but we should be beating them, and yet we see them in these friendlies that they've played, where we're playing Curacao and Bolivia. They're beating New Zealand 4-0. New Zealand, who only lost to 1-0 to England in World Cup warm-up games, and they were 1-0 up against Peru in Miami, and the place was full of Haitians. What an atmosphere. I saw bits of that. It was quite scary, but Peru scored 2 goals late on, the same day we were beating Bolivia 4-0. But I was reading at the time that crowd in Miami will not be going to Boston. Then there's we saw in the news last night, there is a Haitian diaspora in Boston, but they don't know how many folk are actually going to go, because they must be shit scared of ICE. This ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, they're just a Gestapo, basically. They're a modern day Gestapo. There's no 2 ways of getting away from that. They're murderous, they're bigots, they're a lynch mob, basically. Given licence by Donald Trump, who in his manifesto or whatever, between his 2 spells as president, he made this declaration, which was just a racist trope, that the Haitian diaspora in Ohio were eating people's pets, were eating their cats and dogs of people, white people in Ohio, basically. It's just horrific racist stuff. So I was reading this article about their win over Peru, and it was saying that the crowd, it was seeing the atmosphere, it was absolutely crazy in Miami, because obviously that's closer to actual Haiti itself. They'll not be travelling to Foxborough for this game in a few hours, because they'll get arrested. They'll have to go. Most of them would go via an airport up to New England, and it just wouldn't be worth it. They would get done at passport control or whatever, because the ICE are just lifting people off the street for not being white. As simple as that, and they're no worrying about how undocumented their migration has been or whatever. It's horrific, absolutely horrific. I hope they do have a great crowd there tonight, because this is beyond football stuff. I hope they're allowed to get into the stadium and be safe, but there's a good chance they'll not have the kind of support they might be scared of. Scotland, Scotland. I mean, Haiti, as I say, they're a decent side. They're not to be written off at all. In Scotland, really, are the last nation on earth that can afford to write off anybody. But we have got a guy who's won the Champions League as captain, a guy who's played in 3 Champions League finals as our captain. He's won the English Premier League. We got a guy who's won Serie A. Winning Serie A with Napoli, scoring the goal. Was it Cagliari they played in that game? Was it 1-0 or 2-0? I sat and watched it live as well, but he scores a spectacular opening goal, Scott McTominay, like he did in the game that got Scotland through to these finals. That is a country. Napoli is a country within Italy, the Napoli. So it's like Barcelona in Spain. He's taken a great nation to a point that they've been waiting on for so long. Well, it was the second time done in a couple of years, but it was fantastic what he did. What he's done at Napoli, Scott McTominay. So he's used to pressure of expectation. We've got the captain of the last team to win the Europa League just a few weeks ago, John McGinn, is lifting the Europa League trophy. Aston Villa's first trophy, major trophy in 30 years. Their first European trophy. They're only their second European final ever. The first European trophy in 44 years. He's part of the Hibs team, as we well know. We were there that day. They won the Scottish Cup for the first time in 114 years. John McGinn knows about how to end long periods of painful expectation. We need to get into the second round. We need to get out the first round for the first time in our tournament history. Scott McTominay didn't train on Thursday, but he was a bit ill. He was training on Friday. Steve Clarke was laughing that off. He's definitely going to be fit. How professional has our preparation been, by the way? Going to Miami, going to Inter Miami's facilities down there compared to Scotland teams in the past. The very first Scotland team to go to World Cup finals didn't have the proper kit and all that, didn't have a pennant to swap with the opposition players. We get beat 1-0 by Austria, 7-0 by Uruguay. This is the other side of that, hopefully coming at the other end. And even writing off, the scene has been unprofessional for cancelling the bounce game with Norway. I love it. piss them off, be selfish, do what you've got to do. Rodri, raging. The Ballon d'Or, Rodri, raging. The captain of the team that's going to win the Euros, a guy who's won the Champions League as a player, who's won the Ballon d'Or, he's raging at Hampden at the way Scotland played. We beat them 2-0, the only game Spain lost in that entire Euros campaign. Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest players of all time, coming off the Hampden pitch, absolutely raging because he couldn't get a goal against Scotland because it's 0-0 against Scotland in the Nations League. And then, so the Norway manager raging at us for being unprofessional, for cancelling that bounce game with a day's notice. Fuck him, absolutely tremendous. It's also quite symmetrical, symbolic, in that Norway are the only country missing from this group that we're in just now, that weren't in the last group we played at the World Cup finals with Morocco and Brazil, so it's a kind of clash with Norway, if you like. But we've got this Minnows Problem, Scotland. The Minnows Problem, which I remember, obviously, 1970, Argentina 78 is my first World Cup, but Zaire 1974, that was our first game. It was our first ever win in the World Cup finals, Zaire. Now DR Congo at this World Cup as well. We beat them in the Westfalen, but it was only 2-0. Yugoslavia beat them 9-0. Brazil beat them 3-0 because we drew with the two of those. Unbeaten in that group, but we go out on goal difference. New Zealand, 1982, also at this World Cup. 1982 in Spain, that was our first game again. And we're 3-0 up, but they pulled 2 goals back, and we beat them 5-2 eventually. But the USSR beat them 3-0, and the USSR only lose by a single goal to Brazil. We lose by 3 goals to Brazil. And so we draw with the USSR, out we go. Costa Rica, they fucking beat us, 1980, and it's our first game. We have this little habit that's kind of formed at World Cups of getting into, when we do get to a World Cup, of getting the one team in the group that less is expected of them ourselves, we get them first, and it's almost like they're always more ready than us. They get to play, they get to go into that game thinking, well, nothing to lose here. Whereas we get the only game, we do have something to lose. We can't enjoy the World Cup experience. We go in nervous, we go in cold, and we end up slipping up, and it's fatal, even if it's just a matter of not scoring enough goals in a victory. We've got to get over that. This is the chance to get over that, and I think Steve Clarke has got them told this is your World Cup. I think he will have. There was no Minnows in our group in 1986, Group of Death, 1998, or 1954 and 1958 World Cups. In 78, the other times we reached the finals. In 1978, we thought Peru were a minnow. Why? I don't know. Quarterfinals 1970. Cubillas, one of the greatest South American players of all time. But Iran definitely, our second game against Iran definitely were a minnow back in 1978, and to not beat them, that was a real killer. The Dutch might have stepped up a gear if they had to beat us in that final game in Mendoza. I think they would have, or maybe even if we had gone through, we'd have got retrospectively kicked out because of the Willie Johnston drug-taking thing. So we don't know what would have happened then, but it's been a problem how we go on against the other team in the group, which less is expected of than ourselves. I think the Scotland team, it's just a few hours until the game kicks off, folks. This is the worst timed preview pod of all time, but I've got to do it. I've just got to get it out of my system. And as I say, you can pick and choose what bits you want to listen to, if you want to listen to it at all. But Steve Clarke put out the 3-5-1-1 at the start of his reign when he knew Scotland, how bad we were, how bad our central defence is, and it remains so, how weak we are in central defence. He moved to a 4-2-3-1 when he's trying to be kind of pragmatic and also giving us attacking options in that last campaign. I think we played 4-2-3-1 away to the Danes when we set in for a kind of a 0-0 over in Copenhagen. Arguably the result that did get the most important result in that whole campaign, but we think he's going to go 4-4-2 in this one. No guarantee about it. We think he's going to go 4-4-2. There's a lots of positions I can't quite decide on. Goalkeeper, Craig Gordon has got the experience. My God, he's got the experience. The oldest player ever to play for us at a major finals, the oldest player ever to play for us, I think, full stop. But he's got the experience, and maybe he won't have too much. I dread to say that. I think we will have plenty to do against Haiti. They're going to come at us. They're going to attack us. A bit of an esprit de corps. I don't say that just because they've got a French manager and they speak French, but Angus Gunn, maybe his youthfulness, we're not expecting to have too many point-blank saves being needed to be made, so maybe him coming out for crosses and doing the basics. It's better to have a younger man, if that's what's required. Have Craig Gordon, when we're just going to need a total shot stopper against Morocco and against Brazil. I don't know. Craig Gordon and Liam Kelly. Liam Kelly's not going to be starting. He's third choice. But they shared the gloves in the game against Curaçao, and he certainly played most of the game. I can't remember if he played all of it precisely, but I think he certainly started the game and played most of it. Angus Gunn in the second friendly against Bolivia, where we played a 4-4-2, which I'm pretty sure that was us setting up for tonight, practicing how we're going to play in this game. Sorry, tomorrow. Early hours of tomorrow morning. So I'm thinking, I think I'd probably go with Craig Gordon just for the experience, just because we're going to need every bit of expertise, psychological and practical, that we can muster in this, which I think is our most important game of these finals, that the chance where we get to go through. We'll go 4-4-2. I think the problem, we've got two centre halves. I think we're in a situation where our two veteran fullbacks, Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson, would be better at centre half than any of our centre halves. John Suter, Scots, McKenna, and what do you call him? Who else have we got at centre half that I'm really not? Oh, Grant Hanley. They can put in a great shift. They can put in a great performance, but they're just so unsteady. I think Grant Hanley's getting really old as well. To be honest, I wouldn't mess with him. Quite a unit. I would go with Dom Hyam and Jack Hendry. I think Hendry, apart from anything else, he's used to the heat. Playing in Saudi Arabia, technically fine, mobile players. I would go with them, and I think it's going to be Andy Robertson at left back. It's going to be Hickey at right back. I think Kieran Tierney's going to start on the bench. You've then got a problem. If you're going to go 4-4-2, you're going to have to get rid of maybe Ben Gannon Doak. The 4-4-2 that we played against Bolivia in the warm-up in New Jersey last week. I think, see, I went to New Jersey. I've been in New Jersey, but when I went to see the Mets playing, I saw the Mets playing the Seattle Mariners as well. Seen the Blue Jays playing in the MLB stuff. It was at Shea Stadium, which was amazing to go to Shea Stadium, but it was in Queens. It's in Queens, so I've not been to technically speaking, I've been to New Jersey and I've been to New York, but I've not seen, I saw sport in New York, in Queens, not New Jersey. So the stadium is in New Jersey at this World Cup, so I've not seen sport in that, but it's just Toronto. So, but I think if we're going to go with the 4-4-2, Ben Gannon Doak was really good. He's been really good for Scotland, full stop. They could be him and McGinn playing kind of both on either wing. But I feel as if from the game against Bolivia, Ben Gannon Doak might drop out to get John McGinn in there. Or he could take Shankland. I think he prefers Shea Adams to Shankland if he had to pick one, and have John McGinn, who's got 20 goals for Scotland, which is quite amazing by Scotland standards. Maybe have him up front or kind of supporting Shea Adams, because he is prone to caution, as Steve Clark, and quite right too, when we're centre halves are so bad and have been for his entire reign. So I think either Ben Gannon Doak or Shankland is going to have to come out to make room for the one and only John McGinn, who we really can't afford to drop. It's midfield, even with Billy Gilmour no making it, we've got a surplus in midfield of quality. Scott McTominay has to play. John McGinn has to play. If you're going to go 4-4-2, I think Ryan Christie's got to play. I think he wants to play Lewis Ferguson because he can be the final kind of. I mean, Lewis Ferguson can get the ball forward, and he's a good goal scorer. He's good from set pieces, well, providing the set pieces, but he's also a good kind of plug at the back, at the base of midfield. Lewis Ferguson. I don't know if that would be considered too negative in this game, but I think Ryan Christie's a hero for Scotland, an unsung hero. 10 goals, and just he knows Steve Clark's desires. He's a Steve Clark man on that pitch. He knows what Clark wants. I don't think you can afford to drop him at all. So McTominay's got to play. I think Ryan Christie's got to play. You're going to have to get John McGinn in there as well. I don't know. Kenny McLean coming into the reckoning as well. It's in midfield I can't quite work out. But I imagine just from the team, the midfield and the up front last week, I'll say it's going to be Gannon Doak dropping out to make room for John McGinn. We're going to go 4-4-2 hopefully, and just batter it in. Just get in there, Scotland. Get the absolute business done. The other three Celtic home nations, the two Irelands and Wales, they've qualified for 14 major tournaments between them. This is your 13th. This is your 13th finals. We've nearly qualified for as many finals as the other three Celtic home nations put together. England are a different matter altogether. And yet we have never made it out of the group stage. The rest of them have made it out of the group stage of both the World Cup and the Euros. The two Irelands, Wales. Wales have been to the semi-finals of the Euros. Northern Ireland and Wales being the quarterfinals of the World Cup back in '58 when it was a smaller format, but still they've done it. In fact, they qualified for the group stage more often than not. And Wales only failed to get out. They qualified out of the group stage. They've got out the first round more often than not. I think Wales only failed to do it back in 2022 at the last World Cup. Northern Ireland only the 1986 World Cup out of the 4 tournaments they've been to. I mean, Wales have only been to 4 tournaments. Northern Ireland only been to 4 tournaments. The Republic of Ireland, 6 tournaments, 3 World Cups, 3 Euros. They failed to go to the group stage. I don't know, Euro 2012 or something like that, but they also failed to get out in 1988, but they had that Wim Kieft goal for the kind of deflected, weirdly bouncing header from Wim Kieft when the Republic had been holding out really well. I remember watching that game. If that hadn't gone in, they're in the semi-finals. That was when there only was 8 teams in the semis. That's the thing. Scotland qualified for Euro 92 when there only was 8 teams at the Euros. So you're effectively at a quarter-final stage. If we get out of this group, we're in the last 32. And there was 32 teams at the last World Cup in total. So technically, we've achieved far greater in terms of our progress in international football in various finals. But it just hangs over us like a curse. And it has hung over my life like a curse. We have never, in 12 previous tournaments, we have never get out of the group stage. We have lost all our 3 games, or we've lost all of our games at a major finals just once. And that was the time you only get 2 games. The one time you only played 2 games, it's always 3 games, except for in 1954, when you only got 2 group games and we lost both of them, didn't score a goal. Our first ever major finals. But we've never won twice. We've never won as many as 2 games out of the 3. That's why we've never progressed. So we've had we only drew 1 game at the last 2 Euros, lost the other 2. We only drew 1 game at the '86 World Cup, we lost the other 2. We drew with Uruguay, 10-man Uruguay, and we lost to the Germans and the Danes by a single goal each, but out we go. But we have never won 2 games in any of our 12 previous tournaments. We're not expected to get anything but a thumping off Morocco and Brazil. Haiti have been so good in friendlies and just have demonstrated a real ability to the point where it seems silly to anticipate Scotland will beat them handsomely. But we just need to beat them. A win is vital. We are not going to take anything off Morocco and Brazil, especially, if we need to. But we could take something off them if we've already got 3 points in the bag, even if we win by 2 goals, I think, against Haiti. If we've got 3 points in the bag and a solid win, a decent bit of comfort in the goal difference, I think we go into uncharted territory mode. I think we just feel so good for the first time in a generation that we then feel maybe we don't have anything to lose against Morocco or Brazil. I can't see it's taking anything at all. I think Morocco might be beating Brazil tonight. But maybe fancy our chances of pinching a draw off either of them, but not both of them. But I think if we go into those games needing to get something off either of those teams, not to have any chance of finishing third, one of the 8 best third place teams that would then progress to the second round, I don't think we will. But if we win this game tonight and we can add to it, it's bonus territory, the pressure's off, we can enjoy ourselves, then I think that's how it happens. Aye, David Hockney's dead. He went to California for the light. Scotland, we're off to New England to see if we can find the old Scotland, the Scotland of before the World Cup began, the Scotland 96 years ago the World Cup began, the Scotland of the Victorian era, really, when we genuinely were, the last time we genuinely were the best team in the world, but the last time we were genuinely kind of worthy of the name of a Scotland national team. We're off to Massachusetts after seeing Big Catich last night, Plymouth's Rock versus Liverpool in the FA Cup. We're off to Massachusetts to found a new Scotland. Not New Caledonia, though, not Nova Scotia either, because they're different places. There's just too many countries. The pods are too long. I'll see you on the other side, folks, and it'll be a 5-minute post-match reaction. Enjoy the game. Come on, Scotland.